it's Miss Checka. I'm here to start a new series of read alouds with you. And the first in the series is going to be a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, and it's called Cask of Amontillado. And it is a heartwarming tale of, it's a super messed up story about revenge by this guy, Edgar Allan Poe. He looks like a weirdo because he was a weirdo and all of his stories are messed up. So we're just going to go along for the ride there. Why do I have an action figure of Edgar Allan Poe randomly in my house with like a little tiny raven? Don't worry about it. Shh, don't worry about it. Okay, things that you need to know in order to understand Cask of Amontillado. Let's start with the title. What's a cask? What's Amontillado? So Amontillado is a kind of wine. It is a kind of adult beverage, a wine. And a cask is a great big barrel that you use to store wine. So Cask of Amontillado is saying like bottle of Coke. That's one. Two is the setting. Setting's not always important. Setting's real important in the story. It is Venice. It is Venice, Italy. So picture in your mind, Venice is the Italian city where the streets are canals. If you are a fan of Spider-Man, that's where, Peter Parker goes on the European field trip with his class. They go to Venice and it's flooded and there's water everywhere, etc. It's a very, very beautiful city. And it is filled with palazzos, which is the Italian word for a palace or a very, big castle. And Italy, as you know, is a really beautiful big country, famous for lots of things. One of the things is very Catholic. It's very Catholic. It is so Catholic, and in fact, that's where the Pope is. He is in Italy. And in Catholic countries, they have big celebrations for Mardi Gras. Carnival. It's called Carnival. So big, huge party. And the one in Venice is one of the most famous ones. Okay, so this story takes place in Venice on the night of Carnival. It is party night. So picture that everybody is wearing big party clothes, what we might think of as like what a harlequin wears, because it's going to talk about party colored dress, and they don't mean dresses. They mean somebody who is dressed in party, which is like when you have multicolors and like the hat with the little bells. That's it. Okay. There's your background information. So let's get this party started. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could. But when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length, I would be avenged. This was the point definitively settled, but the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. Okay, a couple of things here. One, the language is just going to sound like that sometimes. It's Poe, so don't worry about it. Two, iconic. A thing that Poe does often in his stories is that there's no tension about what he's going to do. You're not wondering like, oh, I wonder what no, he says in the first sentence, Fortunato, he insulted me, so I vowed revenge. That's what the first sentence says, number one. Two, utterance just means words, right? So like, I vowed revenge silently in my heart. I did not say it out loud. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. Congratulations, you just got through the hardest paragraph. The rest of the story is a lot easier to understand. But impunity, it means getting away with it. So the point of this paragraph is that at the outset of the story, this guy establishes, I have an ex-friend, Fortunato. Fortunato insulted me. Therefore, I am going to take my revenge on Fortunato. And he establishes, it's really important to him, the narrator, not just that he does revenge on Fortunato, but that he gets away with it. So that when he says, the unredressed, whatever, he says there's no point in getting back at someone if I get blowback for it. I want to get back at him and I want to get away with it. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued as was my wont to smile in his face, and he did not perceive my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. Y'all, immolation means to burn alive. So what he's saying is, I vowed revenge in my heart, not out loud. Fortunato didn't know. Fortunato, I didn't say to him. I didn't do anything to him. I smiled at him. I smiled right at his face. And Fortunato had no way of knowing that when I'm smiling at his face, what I'm smiling about is I'm thinking about him being immolated, being burned up, right? So this is the very, very definition of two-faced. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards, he was a man to be respected, even feared. He prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity to practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countryman, was a quack. But in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself and bought largely whenever I could. Okay, so this paragraph is telling us a couple of things. First, it has a class marker here, which at these guys' hobbies is wine collecting. And you know who does that? Rich people. So it's telling us these are rich dudes. 1. 2, connoisseur literally means knows a lot about. So Fortunato's weak spot is that he's really, really proud of the fact that he not just drinks wine, but he collects wine and he's knowledgeable about wine. So this is a thing that he's really proud of, and this is his little button that our narrator is going to use to manipulate him. Also, let's just think for a second. If I'm a rich dude and I live in a palazzo, where do I store wine? Well, you got to store wine in a place that is cool and it's dark, because if you leave it out, it goes bad. Refrigeration, not invented yet. So where would that be in your house? The basement. But this is Italy, and this is Venice. So you have these underground areas under the palazzo, which is all made out of stone. That's where you would store wine. I want you to picture this in your head. Okay, so we have established Fortunato, he insulted me, the narrator. I vowed revenge on him. I smiled at his face. And I'm about to mess with Fortunato. And I know Fortunato's weak spot is he thinks of himself as like a very cultured guy who is good at wines. It was about dusk one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting party-strap dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him. I thought I should never stop wringing his hand. Okay, again, Fortunato is not wearing a dress. He is dressed in motley, which is, you got the jingling bells, you have the, different colors. It's a harlequin outfit. Okay, so our narrator sees Montresor, or sees Fortunato, and he's wringing his hand, so he's shaking his hand, and Fortunato is so warm to him because he is drunk. He starts out the story 3 sheets to the wind, and he's at this party. Okay. I said to him, "Oh, my dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I have received a pipe of what passes for an Amontillado. I have my doubts." "How?" said he. "Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible. In the middle of carnival?" "Oh, I have my doubts," I replied. "And I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain." "Amontillado? Oh, I have my doubts. Amontillado? I must satisfy them. Amontillado. As you are engaged, I'm on my way to see Lucrezi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell. Lucrezi cannot tell an Amontillado from sherry." "Well, and yet some fools will have it that his taste is much a match for your own. Come, let us go." "Whither?" "To your vaults." "Oh, my friend, no, I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement. Now, Lucrezi, I have no engagement. Come." Okay, I'm going to pause for just a second here. So what's happening is that he is pushing all of Fortunato's buttons, right? He's pushing all of Fortunato's buttons. So he's telling Fortunato, "Man, I spent so much money on this super duper expensive wine, Amontillado. I don't know if I got cheated. I don't know if I paid too much for it, and you weren't around for me to ask. I didn't want to lose the good price, so I paid for it." And Fortunato, who again is drunk, is skeptical, like, "Oh man, why didn't you ask me first?" And this is where our narrator, he's going in for the kill, because he's saying, "You weren't around, so I asked our other buddy, Lucrezi. Because, Lucrezi knows more than wines than you do." And he's picking at Fortunato's arrogance and his pride. And so he's not saying, "Hey, Fortunato, why don't you go to the vault underneath my house?" He is setting it up so that Fortunato is asking, "Hey, pal, why don't I go with you to the vault underneath your house?" Okay. So anyway, back to the narrator. Narrator says, "My friend, no. It's not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive that you are afflicted. The vaults, they're insufferably damp. They are encrusted with niter. Oh, let us go nonetheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado, you have been imposed upon. And as for Lucrezi, he cannot distinguish a sherry from a Lucrezi." Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm, and putting on a mask of black silk and drawing a roquelaire closely about my person, I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. Okay, I just find that very funny because it is satisfying to me in a story when somebody literally does the thing where they take the cape and they're like, whoosh, and then they, exit. And in this case, where'd they go in? To the basement of his palazzo. Okay. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I had told them that I would not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. It's reverse psychology, y'all. It's reverse psychology. So the narrator, the owner of the palazzo, when he says attendants, he means servants, right? Because it's a palazzo, it's a big palace. The dude has a lot of servants. So the house should be filled with people. But what's going on outside? Carnival. Mardi Gras, big old party. And so he uses reverse psychology. He tells all of his servants, you better not leave the house. You better be here all night long. I'm going to go to the party and I will not be returning till morning. I'm not going to be home. I'm not going to come here till morning. So you better stay here. And of course, what do? They're like, oh, sure, boss. None of us are going to leave the house. And then as soon as he leaves, all their servants left. So when it says they had absconded, that's what it means. They have all run off to join Mardi Gras, Carnival, big party. But what it means is here's this massive palazzo and it is empty. There is nobody home. So now our narrator and Fortunato are coming into this big empty house. I took from their sconces 2 flambeaux. So it's dark, it's night. He's got torches and he hands a torch to Fortunato. And giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length to the foot of the descent and stood together upon the damp ground of the catacombs of the Montresor. This is the first time we hear the name of the narrator. It's Montresor, so I'm going to use that from now on. The narrator, the first person who's talking, whenever it says I, it's Montresor. Pals.